Hello and welcome to the second video in the Learning to Program with SolderCore series. In this episode I'm going to look at creating and using variables in CoreBASIC. A variable is a placeholder for some information. The information could be a value, a string, a complex number, a matrix or even a quaternion. In CoreBASIC there are two ways of declaring a variable. The simplest way is to simply assign some information to a placeholder. The name of the variable must start with a letter, and it must not match any of CoreBASIC's built-in keywords. Let's start by looking at some variable assignments. So, start a SolderCore session. Now we're in, we can create our first variable assignment. We'll keep it simple. And we'll assign an integer value of 1 to the variable named myval1, sorry. Press return and that is done. We can check it by printing myval1. As you can see, you've got the number 1 returned. It doesn't have to be an integer number, it can also be a floating point. Like so, and we can also print that. Oops. CoreBASIC also lets you set up arrays. Arrays are fairly straightforward to do. Do my array. An array is like a collection of elements. Each element has to be encapsulated within some square brackets and separated by a comma. So to create an array of numbers, open bracket, and then your list of numbers separated by a comma, like so, close bracket, press return, and we can print that. There's lots of information in the CoreBASIC manual located on the website on how to use arrays in programming. You can also create or assign strings to variables. So let's create a variable called myString and let's assign some text to that. Like so. Some more complex types. For one, CoreBASIC supports complex numbers. So let's create a complex number. To create a complex number you need to use a keyword complex, or CMPLX, which takes two arguments, a real part and an imaginary, and we can print that. As you can see, 1 plus 2j or 1 plus 2i if you're a mathematician. We can also create matrices. Matrices are a special kind of an array, a two-dimensional array. So to do so, let's create a matrix. Equals, and as before we had a bracket, and then inside this array we need another array, which is the first row, 1, and the next variable separated by a comma, 2, and now we're on the second row, and complete the matrix. Press return, we'll just print that. There you go, and we can also print that in sort of standard notation by using the matrix or the mat keyword. The matrix print and our variable matrix. And there you go. So now you've seen some assignments of variables. How do we actually use that in a program? Well, I'll show you through a demonstration. Let's just clear the screen. So I'm going to create a program to calculate the current through a resistor where we know the voltage and the resistance value. So let's write an example program using variables. Once again, we'll use the main editor. So we're going to calculate the current through a resistor and the power dissipated by it. To do so, we need to know the resistance value R and also the voltage across it V. We're going to get the user to input these values. So we'll type in input, and then in quotes the prompt. So please enter the value of the resistor. And that value will be assigned to the variable R. I'm going to declare it as a float. We also need to get the user to input the voltage across the resistor. And that's going to be assigned to the variable V. Okay, so now we've got R and V, we can calculate the current I and the power P. So I is simply the voltage divided by the resistance, and the power is just V times I. Now we've got those, we want to print them to the screen, so let's do print current through the resistor equals, and we're gonna, I think I'll display that in a nice green colour, so I'll use green, and then and the units are in amps, and we also need to display or print the power. Through dissipated by the resistor, by the resistor equals, right, let's make that red this time, and that's P, and the units are in watts. Okay, because I told to print the value here in green, everything after this statement will be in green, including the text down here. So I'm just going to add a new line to change that back to white. Notice the semicolon there, that's to tell CoreBASIC not to print a new line. And everything after this point is going to be in red, so I'm going to have a line which converts the text to white again, like so. And I'll have a clear screen at the top here, so when we run it, it gets rid of the mess. So we'll exit, hitting Control D, and we'll run the program. Okay, it's enter the value of the resistor, 10 ohms, and we'll put 20 volts across it, so that should give us 2 amps and 40 watts. So that looks good. So that's a simple example there of how to use variables and an introduction to the keyword input. In the next video, we're going to look at conditional statements where the program may have to make a decision based on a variable value, for instance. We'll look at 2 statements, the if statement and the case statement, and that should make things a little bit more interesting. Thanks for watching.